This is Chuck Woolery for Generation America. I'm here with John Long, and John is head of the Florida Tea Party. And I really think, John, that we have a lot in common. And frankly, I would like for you to tell my audience and the people, the members of our organization, what you think we have in common with the Tea Party and Generation America.
Well, the fact is America is struggling to re-identify itself. We tried the era of big government, and it was a huge failure, and it cost American families a huge amount of their net worth. Generation America, like the Tea Party of Florida, has taken the position that we have to get back to solid financial footing. We have to play fair, and we have to play by the rules to get back to the America where people can rebuild their financial base. AARP is a good example of what we have in common, Chuck, because AARP has convinced people that you can't live without them. You need them, you need their voice in Washington, you need their passion, you need their excellence and their exceptionalism, when in reality they're working against their members to build a bigger, more expensive, less efficient, and honestly disgraceful government. And Generation America is a wonderful partner for the Tea Party of Florida because they understand that. And we start at the same place. We can work from there.
Well, thanks for that ringing endorsement. I appreciate that, and I know our members probably do too. The thing that's interesting when you said this, the self-identity, is that what you said, self-identity crisis? It seems like we've been going through this for some time. We don't really want to admit we're socialists. We don't want to talk about Marxists. We don't want to talk about any of those kind of governments. But it seems like we've lost the sight of what America is, and that sounds so like I'm running for a public office, but it's that self-identity. I've always said if you go back to the future, if you go back to the founding principles, find out what this government was meant to be, what we were supposed to be as Americans, what reflected that lifestyle and that process, the things that separated us from Europe, that they were so enthralled with looking at us going, wow, that is amazing that you've done this. And then you take those principles, you then find out who you are. Then you can move toward what you want to be. But I've always said that America's in a very odd place, that we kind of don't know who we are anymore.
It's not so much that we don't know who we are as Americans, as we're being trained to be ashamed of what we are. We're being trained to be ashamed of patriotism. We're being trained by a media, by an educational institution, by a government, in fact, to not celebrate what's great about America.
Yeah. And so American exceptionalism.
Well, sure. I mean, America is an exceptional place. You brought up England,
right.
France, Belgium, Norway, all the people who were under Hitler's thumb in World War II, they were free to be weak because America was strong. If America refuses to be strong, or is ashamed of our strength, or forgets how to be strong, what happens to the rest of the world?
Well, it's the Reagan thing. If America falls, where can people go? There is no place left. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Tea Party because there's so many misconceptions about the Tea Party, led probably by our progressive people, I'm starting to say friends, but not they're friends, in the media. And it's interesting the way they portray you. It's always extreme. They will go as far as to say you're racist. It seems like there's nothing that they won't say in a negative way in order to frame who the Tea Party is. So the one thing I want to ask you about, that every pundit that I've heard talk, and they say, well, they are a racist organization, they're not diverse, they're just a bunch of white guys and white women, and that's what it is. I mean, you would think we were like the Ku Klux Klan or something, the way they talk. So tell me about the diversity, at least of the Florida Tea Party.
Well, actually, it's easy. We were the first political party, and we were the first major institution to endorse Herman Cain for president.
Don't you find that interesting that it's and I think that as a libertarian, and I always think, this is about policy. This is not about color of skin. But no one seems to accept that answer.
Well, we have 5 favorites in the Tea Party.
Okay.
Herman Cain, Marco Rubio, Condoleezza Rice, Alan West.
Well, are there any white people?
Well, but you want to talk about who are our favorites. Who do we identify with the most? Who is out there repeating the things that we identify with?
But of course, the left always says, well, Colonel West, he's despicable, he's extreme, he does all the, he's racist. And you go, excuse me, where does this stop? When do people look at this and go, okay, that's just ridiculous?
He's a Gulf War hero.
Right.
He's a family man. He's highly educated.
He is. You know, I saw him, just to toot his horn for a little bit, I saw him do a thing, I think it was on Hannity. And it was one of these groups that you talk to, and they were all liberal left people. And they were like 15 of them, and he was talking to them. So at the end of it, the guy that was running the group said, well, what do you think of Colonel West? And 5 people said, had no idea he was that bright, had no idea that he was that articulate, had no idea that he had all of these. It was just glowing what they said about him, and it was just the antithesis of what the press says about him.
You know, the press has a free ride in America. We've stopped holding the press accountable for telling the truth or not.
Well, we stopped holding our government accountable for telling the truth and not telling the truth. Did I say that properly? Let me say it again. No, never mind. I'll just let you say it.
Well, we have. We've stopped holding the press accountable.
Right.
They don't have to tell the truth. Nobody calls them on it anymore. I'm going to give you an example. Last night at the Republican National Convention here in beautiful Florida, MSNBC cut away from every single speaker that spoke last night who was not white. If you watched MSNBC, you would have thought the Republican National Convention
It was all white.
was all white.
Well, hopefully Lincoln was right. You can fool some of the people all of the time, all of the people some of the time, but hopefully you can't fool all the people all the time. You're smiling.
You know, we've had a long road to hoe. We were born out of the Obama debacle. He became president, and I don't know about the rest of the country. I don't know how all you feel about this, but in Florida, our economy went off the table. And we decided we could not get help from the mainstream political parties. So we formed our own political party. We were the 23rd largest political party in the state. 6 months later, at the 2010 midterm election, we were the 3rd biggest party in the state by very, very far. People identify with our message because we're not taking sides on kitchen table issues except for the one that's the most important, and that's how we're going to save the economy so that everybody is free to have the other discussions.
John, thank you very much. Thanks for your support of Generation America. I really appreciate it. We certainly support the Tea Party and their ideals because they're just grassroots ideals. They're the Constitution.
Normal people doing normal things.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us today. I'm Chuck Woolery.